Zach Goldsmith is the Conservative candidate for London Mayor, and we hope to speak to him later in the show. But now we're joined by another man who wants to lead the UK's capital. It's the Respect Party leader and former MP George Galloway. Welcome back to the Daily Politics. Would Zach Goldsmith make a good Mayor of London?
Well, housing and transport are not issues that have ever had to trouble him in his own life, of course. He is the heir to a £700 million personal fortune. If we want another blonde, old Etonian toff as mayor, you couldn't get a better one. He's a very honourable person, a principled person. But as Tim just said, he's not Boris Johnson. No, Labour's candidate is not Ken Livingstone, and that's the problem for both of those parties. Right.
I mean, you talk about Zach Goldsmith's background, but why should that be of particular interest to Londoners? I mean, it won't necessarily stop him winning.
I think that it will stop him winning.
Didn't stop Boris.
It didn't, but two in a row would be one old Etonian too many, I think. He doesn't know the lives of ordinary Londoners. He is a gilded youth, a great Gatsby figure, albeit a rather more pleasant one. So I think that the the fact that only 6,000 Tories even voted for him in this election.
It was a small number of elections. But I mean, in terms of policy differences, where would you sort of draw policy differences between you and Zach Goldsmith?
Well, many of his friends are a cause of London's housing problem. The gentrification of some areas, super gentrification, the building of very expensive houses, oftentimes not even lived in.
But that's not his policy, is it, George
Yes,
Galloway?
it is. I'm going to compulsorily purchase any house that isn't lived in for a year. I'm going to insist that half of all new build in London are social housing at 50% of the average rents in the area. Now, that's a clear cut across the interests of the very richest people that Zach Goldsmith represents.
Now, you talked about them being sort of a light version, if you like, of both Ken Livingstone and Boris Johnson, Sadiq Khan and Zach Goldsmith. But really, it is going to be a contest between those two. You're not going to get a look in.
Well, I wouldn't be here on your show if that were true.
Well, we may be helping you by you being here, getting some publicity.
I know you've always tried to be helpful. But the reality is that London has had two mayors. Both of them have been larger-than-life figures, big personalities, people that are nationally known, even internationally known. I'm afraid neither the Tory nor the Labour candidate fit that bill.
Right, I put you, it's going to be difficult for you to give them a run for their money.
Well, once the hustings begin, the television debates, radio debates, in town halls across all London's boroughs, I think you'll see one candidate shining more than others, and it won't be Zach and it won't be Sad.
Right, well, let's turn to Sadiq Khan, because in a way he's going to squeeze you out because he's on the left of the Labour Party, and he will be sucking up most of the support that you might have got.
I don't know where you get that he's on the left of the party. His first act when chosen was to distance himself as far as he possibly could with Jeremy Corbyn. He attacked Jeremy Corbyn's economic policy as ridiculous. He said that Jeremy Corbyn had encouraged terrorism in London by his stand on Ireland and on Middle East issues. He has gone out of his way to try and say to people, I'm not Ken Livingstone and I'm definitely not Jeremy Corbyn. So he has alienated the Corbynista wave, if you like.
And are you saying he couldn't get elected without that Corbynista wave? I mean, let's have a look at some of the things you have said about Sadiq Khan, because these are tweets that you have put out recently. If I am mayor, the city will pay every penny of the Robin Hood tax. My opponent, Sadiq Khan, has pledged himself to be the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah, he did. He also said, Standard this week.
Well, these are your tweets in response. I support Jeremy Corbyn, this is you, and his policies. Sadiq Khan supports Corbyn as the rope supports the hanging man. And you also said Sadiq Khan MP is a rancid traitor to his faith, Islam, and to any conceivable definition of Labour. That's a bit harsh.
That last one is a bit harsh.
Do you take that back? Do you take that back?
Let me publicly take that back.
Right, yes. Do you regret
I'd forgotten I ever said that. I must have been particularly
Well, George Galloway, I'm really glad we've reminded you. But, I mean, but even so, you've taken it back. But a rancid traitor to his faith, what was that based on?
I can't even recall it. It must have been in relation to Palestine, his equation of support for the Palestinians with support for terrorism.
But it didn't warrant that sort of... and you don't think it's true?
No, I take it back. I humbly apologise, my lord. But the other points
the
are
hanging man.
Unarguable. Yeah, well, he is supporting Jeremy Corbyn as the rope supports the hanging man because he hopes for Jeremy Corbyn's failure. He didn't vote for him. He said
he nominated him.
He said he wouldn't serve in his shadow cabinet. He said his economic policy is ridiculous. He said his foreign policy is encouraging terrorism, and so on. He is as far from Jeremy Corbyn as it's possible to be.
But does that matter? Does that matter with the Labour or left-leaning electorate in London?
I think
because in a way, Sadiq Khan was way ahead. He did very well in that Labour contest. He does represent, for many people, not in your mind, the sorts of policies that have obviously gone down well with Labour supporters.
Well, I think he will not attract votes that are sympathetic to Corbyn, and his problem, or Labour's problem, is that he will not attract votes that Dame Baroness Tessa Jowell would have attracted.
Are you disappointed it wasn't her? You'd have had an easier fight with her,
in
your eyes.
I would have looked forward to the very clear blue
So this is sour grapes then, George Galloway? You're annoyed at Sadiq Khan because it does make your pitch much harder.
No, it would have if he hadn't attacked Corbyn so vehemently, with such venom as he did in the Mail on Sunday and the Jewish Chronicle, just days after Jeremy's election.
Right, but in a way, that still doesn't change the fact that he is the Labour candidate. If he's distanced himself from Jeremy Corbyn, Londoners seem to quite like mavericks that distance themselves, if you like, from their leaders. And this will be about independent characters, as you have said. So does it actually matter?
If he was sitting here, most of your viewers would by now be asleep. The very last thing he is a character. Zach Goldsmith's more of a character. Boris Johnson, Ken Livingstone were characters. Sadiq Khan is a very boring man, and I'm not sure that London wants a very boring mayor.
Let's just open this up to our guests. What say you?
Well, he is a little bit dull, I have to tell you. I mean, I call him Mr. Mutter because it's very. I've watched him in the Commons for years, and it's kind of discern what he's saying and how he's saying it, and his point is often very muddled. So I think he is a little bit boring.
He was on Have I Got News For You, and I thought he'd put on a pretty good show on Have I Got News For You. Right. But the thing is, he's down to earth, he's the son of a bus driver. I think that will resonate with quite a few Londoners, but I think you're right, he's certainly not Ken Livingstone, he's not in the charisma league of those people.
I try to imagine him stuck on the zip wire. This is what I'm trying to do. Imagine all the candidates stuck on the zip wire.
Let's move from that particular image. But the thing is, you risk splitting the left. And in the end, you have said you are delighted that Jeremy Corbyn has won the Labour leadership. Do you think Jeremy Corbyn would rather have you, then, as the Labour candidate, rather than Sadiq Khan?
In his heart, I'm sure he would.
Can you see into his heart? Has he actually said that to you?
We sat in this very room together just a few weeks ago, and I won't breach the terms of the conversation.
It's never stopped you before, George Galloway, I'm sure.
No, he's a lifelong friend of mine. I wouldn't do that.
Right,
but I think he knows that my politics are a lot closer to his than Sadiq Khan's are.
So why don't you rejoin the party?
Well, the point I wanted to make, if I may, to your last question, is a preferential vote. So anybody who votes for me can vote for Sadiq Khan with their number 2 vote. And if he comes,
I'm sure he'd be very grateful.
Well, he might in the end be very grateful.
What about the rejoining the party? Because you said you would. You said you'd be there like a shot if Jeremy Corbyn wins. Well, there he is. Why aren't you in the party?
No, what I did say, and I could quote it to you verbatim if you'd like, is that my expulsion needs to be rescinded. Because that effectively would reinstate me into the Labour Party. I'm not going to go cap in hand to a party that shouldn't have expelled me in the first place. I'll forego the apology, even forego my legal costs.
Are you listening, Labour Party? Because as I understand it, they don't want you back.
Well, you misunderstand that then, if that's what you...
Is that really true? I mean, I admit this is a reported comment, but apparently George Galloway, this is a Labour spokesman, said has not applied to rejoin the Labour Party, hence you're not wanting to go cap in hand, and he will not be receiving an invitation.
No, I don't want an invitation. I don't want to rejoin the Labour Party. I want my expulsion to be rescinded.
Has Jeremy Corbyn said he'll do that?
I will ipso facto be a member of the Labour Party. That I tried very hard, and Mr Foote and Mr Benn and Mr Corbyn were my character witnesses at my expulsion.
So will you be expecting Jeremy Corbyn to do that for you?
I'm not expecting anything. I'm running for Mayor of London. I'm doing quite well. Don't tell anybody.
I won't. We'll keep it a secret. George Galloway, thank you.